Please welcome product coach and Agile org design mentor Jaroslav Prochazka.
So thank you for introduction. Looks like the coffee is much better than the content here, so I hope somebody will come back here and I will talk to some of you. I would like to share some experience that I have from some of the startups I co-founded, and mostly really nice lessons I learned when I was leading the product owners in Česká spořitelna for 2 years. I was not a superior of these people, I was not their boss, therefore I had to somehow have some content for them, something interesting, right? So I would like to share many lessons from this. So let me start first with a few questions to you. Who of you here has the PO or PM role, product manager or product owner role? Please raise your hand. Okay. Not so many, okay. So just those who raised the question. Who of you has just one team? That means the product is broader and there is many teams contributing to the product, but you are dedicated just to one team. Please raise your hand. Okay. Then do you know who is your customer? If I ask you who the customer is, can you answer the question? Raise your hand if yes. Okay, good sign. And let's continue. Are you in a frequent contact with that customer? I mean direct contact. Raise your hand if yes. And by frequent, I mean, for instance, daily, right? Daily, weekly. It doesn't need to be daily. Raise your hand now. Okay, one hand only? Really? Okay, we need to talk about this one. And the last one, is the most tricky one. I will talk about this one. If we talk about product management and product owners, product managers, we talk about this one. We talk about owning the product. And by owning the product, I mean mostly two things. The first one, you decide. You make the decision about what would be the product, what would be in it, what the product is doing, to whom, who is the customer, what needs you will solve, and what needs you won't solve, what the product or where the borders of the product would be. So that's the first one. You make the decision. Raise your hands if you do this. Okay. That's a set view. Again, one raise, good, at least one. And the second one means you own the budget as well. So you decide how the budget would be spent. So again, please raise your hand. At least the one at the end? No? Okay, good. So I thought I could close the presentation now at this point, so unfortunately I can't. So I will share something with you. So let me start with the experience. That's from one video, the pictures that you will see here. I will show you later on what the video is, because it nicely describes one of the anti-patterns that we have. This is probably experience what you have when you were in a small product or in a small company, in a startup typically, when you have just one product. What do you typically do? You have a product owner here, the product owner has vision, the product owner understands what will be done and is sharing this with the team. The team is usually cross-functional. You have designers here, you have developers, you cover the testing, you know how to make this live, so that means this DevOps tasks. And you are also in contact with customer, with clients. You have frequent contact. Maybe they contribute to your demo. They are participating to this, and so on. This is very efficient. Everybody knows what needs to be known, the bigger context, the purpose, the why, and those people in the team here, they decide together with you. You bring the idea, and together with them, you come up with the solution. This pattern is very good for the smaller teams, for the smaller companies. But what happens with this experience if you come up to a big company? Any guess? You replicate. You try to apply the same pattern here as well. So what do? You try to dedicate the teams. You try to have the teams that are cross-functional. You try to assign product owner to each of the teams. You try to create your own backlog for each of the team, and you try to discuss the vision, the strategy for each of the teams. Is it okay? Do you like this pattern, or do you follow this pattern? First question. Can you raise your hand? Okay, some of the hands, yes. there is few things, if you follow this pattern, what you get is not a product. Typically, what you get is a series of components that usually does not work together. Why is this? Because the PO or PM that you have rather becomes something that's called, the anti-pattern is called team output officer. You generate output and you make the team busy. The team is busy, the team is usually somehow fixed, and you try to make it efficient, and therefore you generate outputs. You are not having discussions about the value of this output. Moreover, if you have these components, and if you apply this pattern, there is the QR code video, but probably it's somehow cut, so I will later on share maybe the video with the link. So if you have, okay, thank you. So now here's the video. So you can watch this. That's this anti-pattern nicely described. And if you follow this anti-pattern, the product itself usually is not a result of these components. This is systemic thinking. You probably know about this. It says that the system has behavior, or I wouldn't like the word features. I would say the behavior that somehow the outcome of its part, but each of the part doesn't have any of this behavior by itself. So this pattern usually generates a feature factory. In this feature factory, you have utilization-driven approach. You don't think much about the value, or you sub-optimize the value for the component if you think about the value and if you talk about the value. And usually this happens because you have a fixed component teams. You know, you have a people and you need to find a work for these people. So usually you are utilization driven. Why? Because you have a single specialty person. You have Johnny, and Johnny knows only front-end development. So you need to come up with some task that covers front-end development, because this person cannot help anybody in the team, you know, backend, come on, I'm front-end developer. Or something that needs to be done on the discovery side. Come on, I don't want to talk to the customer. You know, I'm developer. Moreover, I'm front-end developer. So these are the replis that probably you heard sometimes. So you have a feature factory, utilization-driven teams, and you have busy people, but you are not generating the outcomes. So again, as Luis said in the morning, you could be on time, on budget, but there is no value that's generated out of your effort. So that's the anti-pattern, and I would like to dive deeper in it, why these things happen, and I would like to provide you 3 things or 3 areas of small improvements that can be applied, and they are not as hard from the position of product owner, because you don't change the company as CEO can, for instance, right? So I will pick 2 things and show you what are some of the root causes of not so really good transformation. So the first one, typically what we do, if you say this is the value stream, so in the beginning you think who is the customer, what are their needs, and you think what you will cover and what you will not, what you will skip. Somehow then you prioritize and you do the refinement, you do the discovery work, and you have the discussion with your team, and only then comes the development. And of course there is many things that follow after. Then you do some integration testing, maybe some compliance, maybe you wait for the window where you could deploy the stuff. And all these things before and after development usually takes much more time than the development itself. But what we do quite often in the practice is that we just focus on the development. But speeding up the development is not the problem. What happens if you speed up the development by 50%? What happens with the whole flow, I mean, with the lead time? Would it be better by 3%, 4%? Maybe. It's a statistical error, right? 5%. So nothing happens if you are pretty quick here. Maybe you are just delivering more quicker crap that nobody is using. you know. So what's the value again in this one? So the first thing, we are not thinking in the systemic perspective, in the value stream, but rather in some silos still, and we try to improve the silos. Improving the silos itself doesn't help us at all. So this is one of the root causes that usually happens, and maybe you know or follow Russell Ackoff, that's a professor of systemic thinking, and he says that the more efficient you are at doing the wrong thing, the wronger you become. So if you do wrong product and if your process is wrong, improving this stuff is stupid, is nonsense. This is stupid to make it better because you are doing the wrong thing, wrong stuff. You are delivering quicker the crap nobody wants, as I said. So what he's saying is it's much better to do the right thing wronger. So if you start to do the thing right, or you start to do right thing, and you start to do it in a not really good way, it's always better than do perfectly something nobody wants. I know it was pretty complicated sentence right now, but I hope you still follow. So it's better to do good things in a not really tidy way than doing perfectly something that's useless, that's stupid, right? That's about this one, what I showed in on the previous picture. And the second thing I would like to open, probably you ever heard the term Agile onion, right? Raise your hand if yes. Only some of you? Okay, these are the perspectives, the layers of understanding and, of course, hardness or easiness of the change. And the downer part is processes and tools. It's very visible, but the impact and the value of this change is not so valuable like the things if you touch the principles and way of thinking, the beliefs, I would say. So these are the things I would like to open. Quite often, because it's easier and it's more visible, it could be sold to the management or to the shareholders that you've done the change, right? You have the Jira now and you follow Scrum process. Therefore, you are agile and your transformation is done. You can get your bonus and you can be praised. So usually we focus on the visible manifestation because the impact is visible and it's easier. And these are the rigid structures, the changing of the companies. I wrote a book that's called Let's All Be Spotify, because everybody would like to follow Spotify model without even understanding what's their product, right? So they rename the roles. They change the product managers to product owners and business owners to tribe leads, and the remaining project managers to Scrum Masters, and it works. No, actually it doesn't. And we start to follow Jira, we create nice reports, we force people to create the stories, features, epics, and the stories, but still the value is not there. But this happens because it's visible and the change is easy here. What's harder, but it's good that we sometimes talk about this one, are the system patterns and system models that somehow drives the behavior. I would just pick two here. The first one, plan-driven development. We think that if we have a plan, and if we something covered by the plan, we will deliver it. We think that the future can be predicted, that we have control over it. So these are manifestations of some beliefs, or the goal-driven development that Luis opened in the morning, OKRs. It gives us focus, but what's forgotten is quite often the control mechanism that's behind. So these two things have some roots in the mental models, the way we as a people think. And there are few mental models here. Again, the first one is the people are lazy and need to be controlled and managed and even more motivated. We could do exercise here. I could lay down here and you could motivate me to stand up. You can be sure, you can bet on it that I will not stand up because I'm not motivated for this one. Nobody can motivate anybody. So one of the beliefs is that people are lazy and need to be guided, controlled, motivated. And the second one is not very readable. Could you please get it back to this one? Yes, that's the control-driven or plan-driven, that the future can be planned or controlled is the belief. And if you don't touch these beliefs and you try to do changes that are the upper ones, still the beliefs would drive the thinking. So still people would like to see the plans because they believe it needs to be controlled and the future can be planned and so on. So you can hit the things, the upper things, but still the change wouldn't be there. You need to go deeper, you need to ask and try to uncover the mental models as well, and try to address the things that are part of the mental models. And yes, it's hard, and yes, there is a lot of things that are also the soft things, right? You need to do a lot of coaching maybe on that part as well, why the person is not trustworthy, why the person doesn't trust others, and so on. So these are the two things I wanted only to emphasize, that the TOO, Team Output Officer anti-pattern, is usually something that we follow and we think it's a pattern because it's efficient in a small scale, but it doesn't work in the large scale. So it looks like this case then, if you misunderstood the beliefs, that you use the tools but for the wrong purpose. I don't know if you know this strip from Comic Agile, so I will give you some time to read it. Yeah. So you use a tool and you think the tool is doing the job for you, but you misunderstood what the tool is doing. For instance, Scrum. I heard within these 20 years I'm doing this job, I heard so many times the sentence that we don't follow Scrum because Scrum is not working for us. But it's misunderstanding. That's the same like with the weight, right? Because Scrum is not going to help you. Scrum is going to show you where you have the problems in your value stream, in your cooperation, in your understanding of customer and value, and it only visualizes the problems that you have, and of course provide some tools how to solve it. But if you run away from visualization of your problems, this is exactly the case. How the heck is the weight not helping me to lose the weight? No, it's not my case, actually. I'm happy with my weight, okay. So, I would like to bring 3 things or open 3 areas, 3 topics where you, in your role as a PO or PM, can somehow improve the situation. The first one is to talk about the customer, understand who the customer is, what are the needs, what's the product not, and how do you measure it. I will get back to this one soon. The second one is quite common anti-pattern or pattern in the company where you have many stakeholders. In Česká spořitelna, we had in some teams something like 150 stakeholders, and having meetings with 150 stakeholders, you can imagine it's not probably something you can do weekly, and you can imagine how the prioritization look like if you discuss with 150 stakeholders. So we would talk about the demand management and decision making. And the last one, the last one is outcome-driven thinking. Start to think about the value, what the value is, and how would you measure it. So we will get back to these 3. But before that, I will open the question. To those of you who raise your hand that you are a PO or a product manager, so are you really a product manager? The question here could be like, yeah, maybe I am TOO, I'm a team output officer. So who is my product and who is actually my product manager? Or am I rather a sort of like platform owner? Because in big companies, you will have something like platform. You will have a platform that delivers some basic, how to call it, environment features, and on top of these, on top of the platform, you can build maybe some of the business applications, and of course there would be always conflict between the platform, like easy to maintain, cost of development, you know, that this should be quicker if you have a platform for it, and with the focus idea of this business application that can be built on it. If I've mentioned Česká spořitelna, so imagine George. Maybe some of you know it and use it. So George is a platform, and then you have many applications built in that platform. So if you are a platform owner, or if you are a real product owner, your job would be quite the same, but the product would be different. But if you are a TOO, or if you are a component owner, your job would be a bit different, and it's good that you rather become a product owner, or if you rather at least if you talk to the product manager, product owner, and you know who it is. After many discussions that we had here in Česká, so we realized that the real product owner is a tribe lead. That means somebody who owns part of the business. It could be some sub-part of the retail, for instance, the loans, or it could be the cards, or it could be the payments, but definitely it was none, or actually it was 150. What was the number, as I said, that I lead. But from 150 people, maybe like 20 only were the real product managers. I mean the original ones that were the product managers, were having the product manager's title. But typically they were only the component owners, and their product owner or product manager was the tribe lead. Yeah? So in many cases, we started the discussion here. So who is your product manager, or are you a real product manager or product owner, is the first question before we will continue. And then the next one, do quick assessment of your skills or abilities, whether you are even capable of doing that job, because quite often it's just the renaming of the role. What I experienced was that there were guys from the business owners, they were called, but they were really the business people. They didn't understand how the software development is working. They didn't know a word about this one, and they were supposed to lead a big IT teams as well, right? So you need certain skills to be a good product manager. I'm not saying that you need to be perfect in all of these, but at least you need to know how to do the product vision strategy and how to communicate it to the people, how to get the inputs information, how to validate it. You need to know something about processes and techniques, from discovery to measuring, to also how the software development is run and how you should communicate and collaborate with the people. And last but not least, definitely the soft part, the leadership part. Leadership is not a trait. Leadership is not a specific trait or a feature of a person. Leadership is a result of interaction of a people. So you need to know how to interact to the people. Right, so do short assessment and discuss who is your product manager, and if you know these two and if you have the skills, you can continue with the steps that we have here. So the first one, show the direction and strategize, is about understanding who is the customer, what are the needs you are trying to solve, what is the product, and how would you measure it? So the first one means who is really the customer. We had a great talk from Fred here. So you have a various layers of stakeholders. You have a buyer, you have somehow who does the decision, you have somebody who uses the product, you have somebody who uses the product on a daily basis, so that generates the data. Then you have somebody who uses the reports that are built based on the data. So you have already two types of user here, and then I also mentioned two stakeholders, right? So who is here important? To whom do you talk? What are the needs you are solving to each of these stakeholders? And most important also, what are the things you are not solving? What's out of the scope of your tool or of your product? We had many discussions in Česká where there were a product, actually there was a product or outcome of those component teams, fixed component teams, where people have budget and they didn't know what to develop because they have time. They created their own small products. And their own small products were solving exactly the same need as already was doing some other product. The other product was the one that was strategic product, and it was decided this product would do the thing, but they created a small component that started somehow and silently took the traffic from here. Part of the traffic was here, part of the traffic was here, then you have two sources of the data, and you have already a mess in your company, right? So thinking about where are the borders this is what I'm doing, this is what you are doing, this is our need that we solve, and this is something we don't solve, and we don't want to solve it in the future. These are very important discussions. So vision is about this one, knowing who is your customer. There could be several types or layers or levels of the customer, and then they could have specific needs and different needs. And then the product and business goals. For the product, it's also important to know where is the border. If you use some parts of let me say, like the platform I've mentioned, if you use the platform, it should be known because there is a border. You would need some APIs here and stuff like this. So these are the key things. And of course, the business goals is the connection that Luis showed in the morning. That's the connection to strategy. I will later on will talk about some filters in the prioritization. So the first filter always that we had was, is this fulfilling our strategy? And typically the filter was through the goal. And if there was no link of your idea to a goal, to a strategy, there was actually a quite clear answer. No, we won't do this. Or at least there was also the question, okay, why there is not the linkage? Have we forgotten something about the goals? Or is there something we need to do this because of the legal, for instance, and we forgot about this one? So there was a discussion. It was not always like no and see you next week or next year. So the business goal was the filter, or the business goals was the first connection to the strategy. Is somebody of you using some simple one-pager like this for the vision capturing or description? Raise your hand if yes. Okay, one hand only, again. So, yeah, and what I'm talking here, this should exist on a product level, not on that component level or team level. So we created these things, or at least we have these discussions with that tribe lead, as I've mentioned. So typically it was tribe lead and 5 to 12 these component owners that were no more product owners, right? Good, so this is the vision, and there could be also a better thing. If you have already the first version, you can continue with better form, and you have here 2 examples. You could check. The first one is from John Deere. They are visualizing and showing the vision of their products. That's more for the product category or for the whole bench of the things, and it shows how they think. It shows who is their customer in their environment, as Fred was showing. So it's the farmer here, and the farmer is showing the daily life of the farmer, right? He's going in the morning. He wakes up and he starts to check some data and so on, and it's visualized in that video. And the second one is, I think, for Airbnb. So you could check and have also this better form. But first, please start with this one, because you would need it anyways as an input for this part. So again, on the product level. And the second thing, how we follow, is strategy. It means how you do the thing. So it tells these are the directions for the decision making. If I have 2 options, it should help me to decide whether to go to the left or to the right. I will show you a few examples soon. And also the key decisions. And here is an example that I have from one of my companies, from Quick Jobs. So we have a division of our product that we bring young people to the labor market. We have defined who the customer is. Actually, we are a marketplace, so that means we have stakeholders who bring their offers. Then we have those people that look for the offers and so on. So it's already complicated by itself. And the strategic anchors that we have is these examples. Workers do not pay for the app or for the offers or for anything. So we don't want them to pay. We want employers to pay. That's the rule, and we always decide like this if we think about the future ideas. Job payment is outside of the app because everybody follows different rules, and accountancy is different for all the companies. So we decided to have here the strict line, and you just pay us for the offer, but how you pay the workers, it's up to you, and you do this outside the app. And we already decided or get from the data that how to attract new people and how to retain them is not with doing actions or events with the workers, but with the quality offers. So that was something that data showed us, and also discussions with the, of course, with those two sides. But we realized that this is the thing that keeps the people here, that retains the people. And the last one, we would like to have some positive experience when trying our application. Therefore, we offer a few things for free. And it was also done based on the data, because we knew that the positive experience comes after 3 or 4 attempts. So we provided 5 to have it twice. Or actually, it was after 2, so we provided 5 to have it twice, like this. And also, we have in our strategy like key decisions that you make through the existence of the product, and you quite often get back to that thing because you have many discussions that are somehow connected to this. So, for instance, payment gate. Every new team member, the technical team member that joined our team, wanted to change our gateway because it was really nasty. That was true. But it was only gateway that could aggregate the small payments, because there was something like for each payment there is some minimal amount you need to pay. So if we talk about like €1, they always take like 30 cents, right? So, and we have really low prices. You paid just €1 or €2, and 50% of this would be kept or stolen by the gateway. So it was nonsense for our business model, right? So these things, you need to store them, and you need to get back to these when doing the daily decisions. The first one, when you have a refinement, or formerly you said grooming, maybe because it was called like this in Scrum Guide. So if you do the refinement, if you think about the solution, what can be the solution, you use vision and strategy here for making the decisions. The second thing, it's typically the input for your sprint goals or for the goals for some period. You think about what's the focus now and what we will develop. And the last one definitely is the context for a review. If you start the demo, usually here you start with that connection to the client need. And as all of you know, the key need we try to solve is this one. Our goal or our focus for this period, for this quarter, was this one. And now we will show you how we try to solve it with the solution. This is the anchor. This is the connection, right? So that was the first one. That was showing the vision and strategize. Second one is about stakeholder management. And here I would focus on 2 parts, on demand management and on transparent decision making. But before I will dive deeper, the first thing I usually hear is like, hey, they don't understand Agile, it's hard to get them to the meeting, they still propose the solution and they do not bring the need and so on. All these blamings and all these problems that everybody knows. Don't wait for them and try it. Try it, organize it, talk about their needs, listen to them, and if you would do these things, they will come and they will start to talk to you. How to do this? The first thing what we started to do was to organize a joint decision meeting when they come up with all their ideas, maybe even with these 150 people, as I said at the beginning. But what we said is, or what we discussed was, okay, we have specific stakeholders. We have many of these, but probably they are not the same value. So we started to sort them out somehow. And we discussed who is the one who needs to be in direct contact quite frequently. For instance, because they are bringing or representing the needs. Then there was another side, and it was like, who is the one who needs to see some progress? But seeing the progress can be maybe only on a weekly basis or monthly basis or even quarterly basis. So, okay, with this group, and we sorted these 2, we put one pile here and one pile here, and we organized different meetings with different frequency. And moreover, we invited all of those there. So in this group, we have CEO, management, the board members, right, and those tribe leads that were the product managers of our product. And here on this pile we have the real users and also the tribe leads, because we wanted the feedback from them as well, because they decide, they own the budget and so on. So bring them, maybe you can sort them out to those categories as I showed. We have later on more categories and different meetings and so on. But finally it evolved so that they started to meet without us. They started to talk about the priorities, and only they came to us only with the results, with the clear priorities. I mean the business goals, business priorities, not with the features, right? Never we discuss the features. Yeah, that's what I wanted to emphasize. They will come up with the ideas and they will come up with the features. Stop talking about those features and ask or bring the discussion back to the goal. What are your needs now? What is your business focused right now? On what topic? What do you like to achieve in this year or in this quarter? Let's talk about this one and how we can help you to achieve this one. So it's easy. It's never easy to get there, but it's easy to start these discussions. You can get back with those questions like why you need this, what's the value, how would you measure it, how you recognize the success. Have you ever asked this question? If you will have this feature or this product, what would be different? How would you recognize the success? You have these three whys, right? Like weird, wonderful, or wrong, yeah. So if the answer is it would be the same, so the question is why you would like to do this, right? So, and define the measurements or the metrics. How would you measure the success? That's another story, right? So start to talk about the value, not about the feature. I have one example here, what we did with the demand management. Probably all of you have experienced this one, like yearly activity, the same like the budget, waterfallish, very waterfallish, and very, I would say, like unequal. You are in a position of a slave, so to say. Here are my requirements. You get it and you deliver it tomorrow, right? So these are the typical things like we are asking functional silos for their needs without understanding the end-to-end client journey or the value stream. That's the one typical mistake. Then they are stating the requirements. We are not talking about the needs. We are not asking them how you do the stuff. Show me. Tell me where you feel the pain. What do you like? You know, so that I would replicate it. Then quite often in the requirement by itself maybe is not so bad. What's bad is that it freezes the solution. Quite often it misses the why part and proposes only the solution. So we try to solve something and we don't know what, right? And then decide, if you have a refinement meeting, then decide on the best solution if you don't know why you are doing this one. I have many stories on this. So you can get back and we can discuss during the breaks. And as I said, it's quite often an order, right? I'm your superior, you deliver this feature. And it's once in a time. So if I approach you and tell you, now you have the only chance to tell me what you need for the upcoming year, of course you will think about all the stupid stuff that you think about and you totally forget about the only mostly needed ones. And of course the one I touched already, the lacking validation and measurement. All of you know and have experience with creating the business cases so that the business case would be approved by the decision board. Not that the business case is built on the value and on the results. And this is the reason why we do not measure much, because we know it will not deliver what it promised. It was designed to be approved, not to be successful. You know, that's the big thing. And actually, this is something we started to change. In Česka, it was a nice story. So what we did and how we did the Michelin menu from the really poor ingredients is you will not create the Michelin menu, right? So you need to have a better ingredients. So we started to have shorter periods, more discussions, more frequent, and shorter ones, of course. And we started to ask about the business need. We totally skipped and somehow how to say it, ignored maybe the solution ideas. Of course, we wrote them something, but we kept it on the teams and started to show and discuss data. Because the typical sentence, everybody needed this one, you know, it's quite important. They said it as well, they said it twice, they said it 3 times. So we started to somehow sort it out and started to work with the data. And with the solution, we forgot about the requirements and your proposed solution, and we started to co-create together with the development teams. And last but not least, definitely was the validating assumptions. So that's the discovery that was set, but it needs to be connected with the measurements, not only the discovery itself. So the last thing, because I will talk about the examples I've shared here, I will talk soon. So last but not least, in this second thing, how to involve more the stakeholders, how to work with them, is do and start, doesn't matter, really do the demo. Really have contact with clients, with users, with decision makers. It is very important because they need to know what's done, what's the progress. They need to play with the first version you create to them. And if I'm talking about demo, I mean the real demo is as the way it's intended. It's not a presentation. Who of you is doing demonstrations? Some of the demonstrations, raise your hand. Okay, quite many. Who of you is doing a presentation? Raise your hand. Okay, some of you. And who of you is really doing the play? Really, you show, you say, you give a context, and then you give the keyboard and say, look, this is yours. Now you play. Who's doing this one? Raise your hand. Okay, much less, definitely like 1/10 of previous. So if I'm talking about demo, I mean the second case. The first case is not a demo, it's a presentation. Okay, it has nothing to do with demo. And usually my experience is, if you run out of the time within that presentation, what you do is typically that you skip the questions. You know, the most important part, you would like interaction, and you skip the questions part. So it's better to skip the part when you show something and keep at least like 10 minutes or half an hour for the questions and the discussion. That's much better. Or do only the question and discussion part. So that's the demo and the feedback. And let's continue with the outcome-driven thinking. The outcome-driven thinking, in our case, was mostly about the 2 things. Let's start talking about the value and about the impact and how we will measure it. This is something that comes up from, probably some of you will know it here, the very famous QBR process. Quarterly business review is the R, I guess. So quarterly business review process. It was quite often built on the features and discussions about the features and priorities there, but that's not the goal, right? You don't want to deliver features. You would like to have a value and the impact here. So we introduced these 3 basic, how to call it, categories to filter initial ideas that you come up with. And these were clients impacted. How many clients are we supposed to impact with that change? And you see, here are not, okay, you cannot see them because it's secret information, sorry, but I will share. It's not about exact numbers. It's not about it would be like 3.5 million. It's about rather like a scale. You know, would it be like hundreds people, thousands people, 100, tens of hundreds, hundreds of thousands, thousands, millions? You know, what's approximately the scale? Because if you have like 10,000 or millions, of course, something that affects millions people or impacts millions people is more important for us than those 10,000. I'm talking about the retail now. Of course, in corporate, it would be different. So we had just the scale 1 to 10, and it was from single people up to millions. Then the second one we discussed was what's impact on the client. Will the client recognize the change? And actually, what we care here about was usually something like 6+. We didn't care about small things. We wanted really big change. For instance, I'm not using the app right now, and I will use it more frequently if this thing here disappears, or if my payment could be with 1 or 2 steps. Of course, there is a regulation you need to follow, but 1 or 2 steps, not 7 steps as it's nowadays. So these things, and you can see 0 was prototype, not even, actually it was not prototype tested, it means no discovery here. And if there was a 0, it was not even in the list. You cannot put it in the list if there was a 0, right? And the last one was, what is the financial benefit? Will it save some money or some time of somebody? Will something be more efficient, or will this bring or process more value, more revenue? Will it bring or not? So this is something that was not somehow prepared from the table or by the table. It was something that was done based on the first discovery iterations. So we have few iterations or few workshops, discussions. It could be, of course, the table research, but it's table research, not the table thoughts or table wishful thinking. And it was based on the data, and we always checked the data also. So that was the first step, and it's follow. What's the time still? Okay? Okay, good. So, and then we also wanted to visualize how it works together, because we have something like validated plan, and the validated plan was like, this is what we promised in the previous step, and we wanted also to check whether it was really delivered. So we started to visualize this together, because it shows us also how many initiatives we do and how many initiatives are discovered. And if they are not discovered, why we do them. So we had also these discussions. Okay, so that was actually the things that I wanted to show, because these are the details. These are the details that could be done on the product level. Like, for instance, if you don't have any data, start with the product funnel. Why? Because it will lead you more to the outcome thinking, to the value thinking. If you see there is a big drop after the registration to the first reaction, you can start to solve the real problem, okay? They register, but they do not use the application. So there is a problem, and you start to solve it. So 3 things I wanted to show you. Know who is the customer, what's the need, what you do and what you don't do, where are the borders. Connect this to your goals or to your strategy somehow. The second thing, bring stakeholders together, think about those who are important, who are less important, put them together in ideal case, let them talk together and only come up to you with the results if you have more of those. And we started with demand management, and the last one was outcome thinking. And one hint to you, don't wait for anybody else to change. You cannot change anybody else. Only the one person sitting here in this hall you could change is you, okay? So always start with you, don't wait for anybody. And if you'd like to follow some of the ideas I was talking about, you can find something in my book or LinkedIn, or follow some of these companies maybe you would know that really do or apply somehow these principles. So thank you for your time and for listening.
Thank you, Jaroslav, very much. Before we look into the slide, if there are any questions, I really like that always the speaker that is talking confirms what the previous speaker said, right? So it's really, really valuable, all these presentations. I also like like you said, that people are lazy, but yes, that's true. We need to touch their feelings, touch their beliefs and values. I've got one question.
But just to clarify, this is a wrong attitude. You know probably about theory X, theory Y, and it's explaining somehow that it's not like this. You feel motivated somehow on Saturday or Sunday to wake up at 6 in the morning because you, if it's not by your kids, because you go somewhere to do something that motivates you internally. So actually that was a wrong belief, yeah? Just to clarify.
Okay, thank you. I just have one question about this assessment, because you were talking about that you have to find out if you are doing the right thing within your role, okay? Do you have any specific maybe handout which I can fill in and assess myself if I fit in the role or if I am actually on the right position?
That was what I showed, actually, these like 3 categories. And the key thing here is this person the right person in the right position? Because quite often you could have like very analytical person here that don't like to talk to the people, but it's something like quite opposite that you need in PO role. So the person could be really good in some other role, but probably would not strive as well in this position. So really start in the beginning to check and validate whether that person is the right one here in that position. You don't not need to be perfect in all the areas that I showed, but you need to be at least somehow good in all of those, and then in one of these 3 you need to be perfect. You cannot be mean in all of these, right?
Okay, thank you very much. I think that there is no question because we can see the Slido
Okay.
like screen without the questions, but are you staying here for the panel discussion?
Yes,
Great.
yeah.
So you'll have a chance to ask Jaroslav questions later. Thank you very much. Jaroslav Prochazka.
Thank you.